The rain had been falling for hours, coating the cracked sidewalks of Queens, New York, in a shimmering gray glaze. Neon signs flickered against puddles, and the low hum of traffic carried the rhythm of a restless city. Inside a small corner diner, where the smell of burnt coffee clung to the walls, a man sat alone in the booth near the window. His name was Daniel Reyes, 43 years old, an immigrant from Puerto Rico who had spent half his life trying and failing to live the American dream. His shirt was wrinkled from a long day at the construction site. His hands were calloused, nails blackened from years of hard labor. He stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, eyes fixed on the door, as though expecting someone. That someone walked in a few minutes later. Emily Carter, 36, a social worker with tired eyes and a cautious smile. She slid into the booth across from him, her damp coat leaving dark marks on the vinyl seat. "You called," she said softly, brushing wet hair from her forehead. Daniel nodded, his throat tight. "I didn't know who else. I think I'm in trouble." Emily leaned forward. "Trouble how?" He hesitated, glancing around the diner. A trucker slurped soup at the counter. A young couple argued quietly in the corner. No one was listening. "They're saying I stole," Daniel whispered. "Money from the site. Tools. Even drugs. But I didn't. You know I didn't." Emily searched his face. For months, she had been working with him and his teenage son, Mateo, trying to help them stabilize after Daniel's wife had died of cancer 2 years earlier. She had seen his flaws, his temper, his stubborn pride, but she also knew his decency. "Who is saying this?" she asked. "The foreman. Cops came to my apartment yesterday." Mateo saw it all. His voice cracked. "They said I could go away for years. They'll take my boy." Emily felt a chill despite the warmth of the diner. She scribbled notes in her pad, but her instincts screamed that this was more than a case file. "Daniel, is there any truth to it?" "No," he said firmly. "But the truth don't matter when people already decided you're guilty." For weeks after that meeting, Emily tried to help. She called lawyers, wrote appeals, gathered character references. But the case against Daniel thickened. Witnesses claimed they saw him pocketing supplies, his signature was on suspicious receipts, and even security footage, blurry but damning, seemed to point at him. Mateo withdrew into silence, skipping school, getting into fights. The boy who once sketched comic book heroes now drew only dark figures behind prison bars. One night, Emily drove to the Reyes apartment to check on them. The hallway smelled of fried food and cigarette smoke. She knocked 3 times before Mateo opened the door. His face was bruised. "Who did this?" she demanded. He hesitated, then whispered, "It was my dad." Emily's heart sank. Daniel appeared behind him, eyes bloodshot, reeking of whiskey. "Don't listen to him," he muttered. "He doesn't understand." But the mark on Mateo's face told a different story. The trial was set. Daniel swore his innocence, yet the evidence mounted. Emily sat in the back of the courtroom every day, torn between duty and compassion. The prosecution painted him as a desperate man, a widower drowning in bills, lashing out at his son, stealing to survive. The defense painted him as a hard-working immigrant, scapegoated because of his accent, his record, his poverty. The jury deliberated for hours. Finally, the verdict: guilty on all counts. Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Daniel's face turned to stone. Mateo cried silently in the gallery, fists clenched. Emily closed her eyes. But then, something happened no one expected. 2 weeks after the conviction, a construction worker named Kyle Bennett was arrested in a drug bust across town. Among the seized items were tools marked with the same serial numbers as those Daniel had supposedly stolen. Investigators dug deeper and found doctored receipts, forged signatures, Kyle's handiwork. The truth unraveled like a pulled thread. Kyle had been running a side business, selling stolen equipment and drugs, and had pinned it on Daniel to save himself. News broke fast. Talk shows replayed Daniel's tearful testimony, commentators debated systemic bias against immigrants, and the public opinion shifted overnight. This ending shocked everyone, the headlines screamed. Daniel was released within days, charges dropped. Reporters crowded outside the courthouse, microphones shoved in his face. "How do you feel, Mr. Reyes?" one shouted. Daniel looked at the cameras, the flashing bulbs, the hungry faces waiting for a soundbite. He opened his mouth then stopped. Slowly, he turned away, his hand gripping Mateo's shoulder as they walked down the steps in silence. But the story didn't end there. Daniel was free, yes, but not whole. He carried scars from the nights in jail, from the betrayal of friends who believed the worst, from the distance that had grown between him and Mateo. Freedom didn't erase the bruises, the shame, or the whispered gossip in their neighborhood. Emily visited them one last time, weeks later. She found Daniel sitting at the kitchen table, papers scattered around, job applications, rejection letters. Mateo was asleep on the couch, his sketchbook open to a drawing of a man breaking chains. "You're a free man," Emily said gently. Daniel gave a bitter smile. "Free on paper. But people don't forget. My boss won't rehire me. Landlord wants me out. And my son, he looks at me like I'm a stranger." "Give it time," Emily urged. Daniel stared at his hands, the same hands that had built skyscrapers, held his wife's body when she died, struck his son in a moment of rage. "Time doesn't fix everything," he said. "Sometimes it just reminds you how broken you are." Emily wanted to argue, but the weight in his voice silenced her. Months passed. Then, one cold December morning, the city woke to stunning news: Daniel Reyes had disappeared. His truck was found parked near the East River, keys still in the ignition. No body was recovered. Some believed he had ended his life. Others claimed he fled back to Puerto Rico. The media, once obsessed with his redemption story, now devoured his vanishing. Talk shows speculated endlessly: was he guilty of something after all? Could he not bear the weight of freedom? Mateo refused to speak to reporters. But one night, Emily received an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside was a single page of Daniel's handwriting. It read, "They took everything from me but my son. I won't let the world take him too. Tell him I love him. Tell him he is stronger than I ever was. This is my choice. D." Emily pressed the note to her chest, tears burning her eyes. Daniel's body was never found. His story became a cautionary tale whispered in courtrooms, classrooms, and immigrant kitchens across the city. Some saw him as a victim, others as a coward. But to Emily and to Mateo he was a man who had tried, failed, loved, and lost in a country that promised freedom but gave it with conditions. And in that silence where answers should have been, one truth remained.